There's a moment in every life when you realize that the world doesn't bend for everyone equally. Some people move through it as though they hold a secret, an invisible key that opens doors others barely notice. They are powerful, magnetic, untouchable, and yet for all their dominance, they are human subject to fears, ambitions, and desires just like the rest of us. But there's a rhythm to how power works, a set of unspoken laws that govern influence, loyalty, and fear. Machiavelli, the master of political foresight, distilled these truths centuries ago. And today they are more relevant than ever for anyone who wishes not just to survive in the shadows of greatness, but to step into the circle where the powerful breathe, where decisions are made, and where lives are quietly reshaped. Imagine for a moment standing outside a grand hall, the golden light spilling from the windows, the echo of laughter and conversation carried on a warm evening breeze. Inside, a few people hold more sway than entire nations, their words carving pathways through empires, their glances shifting the course of careers and destinies. Most of us are invisible in that room, passing through the air without leaving a trace. But what if you could learn to move differently? What if you could step across the threshold not as an intruder, but as a participant in the silent language of power? The journey begins not with force, but with understanding. Power is not an object to be taken. It is a current to be navigated. The first law, though Machiavelli never spelled it out in the way we might today, is deceptively simple. Always appear desirable to those who wield influence. The dangerous elegance of this is that it is not about flattery or obsequiousness. It is about presence. Imagine entering a room and noticing the small cues, the subtle hierarchies, the way people lean, shift, and breathe in each other's company. To connect with power, you must first understand its rhythm, feel its pulse, and then align yourself without ever seeming desperate. The people who hold sway are accustomed to attention, but they respond to those who intrigue, those who offer a reflection of ambition, courage, or wit, without bowing entirely. Your presence must feel like a spark, a quiet signal that says, "I belong here, but I will not be consumed." There is also a peril in the pursuit of influence. Desire, unchecked, can betray you. Machiavelli warned of the perils of appearing too eager, too obvious, too willing to be taken in by the superficial charms of power. The second law whispers that you must always conceal your true intentions. Let your actions hint at your ambitions, but never reveal the full map of your strategy. Picture a chessboard in the candlelight of a quiet study, each piece moving with deliberation. A misstep, a glance that reveals too much, a word that leaks your purpose, and you are exposed. Powerful people do not reward transparency. They reward careful observation, discretion, and the kind of patience that lets you appear harmless while quietly positioning yourself where influence gathers like mist in a morning valley. But understanding these rules is only the beginning. To truly connect with the powerful, one must master the subtle art of timing. The third law teaches that opportunity often comes disguised as coincidence. You cannot force the hand of fate, but you can be prepared when the moment appears, like a hunter who knows the forest so intimately that he anticipates the movement of every deer. There is a story Machiavelli might have told about a young diplomat who waited years, attending gatherings without expectation, quietly learning names, alliances, and grievances. Then, when a single conversation could shift a negotiation, he spoke. And because he had earned the rhythm of the room, his words landed with precision. Power responds to those who are patient, who understand the architecture of influence, and who act not when the moment seems convenient, but when it is inevitable. Fear and respect are twin currencies in this world. To step closer to the powerful, one must know when to inspire admiration and when to invoke caution. The fourth law is subtle yet profound. Never let your presence be predictable. Familiarity, unchecked, breeds contempt. Powerful people are surrounded by yes-men, by those whose loyalty is purchased or feigned. But when someone presents a controlled unpredictability, a thought that surprises, a gesture that resonates, they earn attention. Think of the quiet authority of a storm that appears on the horizon, not yet violent, but impossible to ignore. Your actions, your words, your very posture must carry this kind of restrained energy, making you memorable, even necessary, without tipping into recklessness. And yet, connection is not merely a strategy. It is an emotional skill. The fifth law is empathy, but not the soft kind that dissolves your boundaries. The kind Machiavelli prized is the ability to see the world through another's ambition, to anticipate fears and desires before they are voiced. Imagine observing a king in council, noting the flicker of doubt in his eyes when a trusted ally speaks too boldly, or the surge of pride when his ideas are affirmed. To align with power, you must inhabit these microcosms of feeling, sensing the currents beneath the words, and responding in a way that positions you as indispensable. It is a dance of intuition, of emotional intelligence, sharpened by observation and reinforced by subtle action. There is, however, danger in attachment. Law 6 whispers a brutal truth: never be beholden to a single person. Dependency is a chain. Powerful people value loyalty, yes, but they fear obligation more. If you tether your fortune, your influence, or your presence to another's whim, you surrender autonomy. You must cultivate a network, a constellation of connections, each one reinforcing the other, so that your power becomes resilient, flexible, and quietly self-sustaining. This is not mere social climbing. It is the architecture of influence, the invisible scaffolding that holds you in place even when storms rage. Trust, then, becomes a delicate currency. The seventh law is to be trusted but never naive. Reputation is forged in perception more than truth. A whisper of integrity, a visible adherence to principle, and you are invited into circles that others envy. But this trust must be earned strategically, selectively, and always with awareness of the cost. Imagine speaking with a senator or CEO who is accustomed to the insincere praises of the many. When you speak with clarity, honesty, and the quiet confidence of one who understands the stakes your words carry, wait precisely because they are rare. Influence flows not to the loud, but to the deliberate, the measured, the carefully observed. Ambition, when wielded well, is magnetic. Yet Law 8 cautions against obvious aggression. Power resists the obvious grab, the eager hand stretched for dominance. It prefers subtlety, the quiet assertion that suggests strength without threat. Think of a predator circling its territory, visible enough to command respect, unseen enough to avoid immediate challenge. To connect with power, one must practice restraint, timing, and the art of implied authority. In a conversation, in a negotiation, in a shared silence, your presence must whisper of capability, hint at resourcefulness, and suggest potential without declaration. And there are moments when connection requires a difficult embrace of reality. Power is often lonely, fragile, and envious. Law 9 demands the understanding of envy, both to avoid its bite and to wield it when necessary. Those who hold influence are constantly tested, constantly measured against peers, and constantly aware of threats. By recognizing these insecurities, you can position yourself as an ally rather than a rival, a confidant rather than a competitor, while still maintaining the edge that makes you valuable. It is a subtle interplay of presence, timing, and emotional intelligence that transforms raw ambition into strategic alignment. Law 10 teaches one of the harshest truths. People are often loyal, but only when it serves them. To connect with the powerful, you must learn to navigate shifting alliances with grace and discretion. Picture yourself in a candlelit study, the murmur of servants outside, the subtle clink of glasses, and the powerful figure across the table gauging not just what you say, but the texture of your silence. Every action is measured, every word is weighed. Those who understand this know that loyalty is never blind. It is earned through consistent intelligence, subtle value, and an almost imperceptible reliability. To fail here is to vanish quietly from influence, replaced by another who understands the rhythm of need, ambition, and trust. And yet, connecting with power is never purely cerebral. Law 11 demands presence, the kind that resonates physically, emotionally, and intellectually. There is a magnetism that cannot be faked, the way a room bends slightly towards someone who knows themselves fully, who is grounded even amidst chaos. Imagine walking into a gathering, the chatter dimming almost imperceptibly as your confidence, poise, and quiet awareness shift the atmosphere. This presence is not arrogance, it is mastery of self, the understanding that power respects those who command their own energy, their own narrative, without apology or overstatement. Law 12 is paradoxical in its cruelty and elegance. To truly align with the powerful, you must sometimes wield fear delicately, not through intimidation, but by cultivating the sense that your absence would leave a subtle void, that your ideas and your insights are irreplaceable. It is the art of indispensability, of existing at the intersection of respect and slight apprehension. Powerful people are drawn to those who elevate them, but also remind them without words that influence is fragile, that alliances are precious, and that trust once earned must never be taken lightly. The skill lies not in overt control, but in creating a silent gravitational pull that keeps you in orbit around the center of decision, influence, and desire. Finally, Law 13 reminds us that patience is power. Everything else, observation, empathy, discretion, timing, culminates here. Influence is not seized in a single act, nor is it maintained through constant proximity. It is cultivated like a rare plant in a carefully tended garden. You water it with small gestures, nurture it with insight, and protect it by knowing when to step back. The powerful respect those who understand that immediacy is often destructive, that moments of restraint often yield far greater reward than forceful intrusion. There is a story of a diplomat who waited years before uttering a single critical word to a ruler, a word that shifted alliances, redirected fortunes, and altered the trajectory of nations. Patience was his sword, precision his shield, and in that measured silence, power welcomed him fully. Yet all of these laws, as precise and ruthless as they may appear, are not a blueprint for cold exploitation. They are a philosophy of understanding human nature, of seeing ambition, fear, and desire in their rawest forms, and of positioning oneself with integrity, intelligence, and strategic empathy. To connect with powerful people is to recognize the dance of dominance and dependency, pride and vulnerability, control and grace. It is to step into a current far larger than yourself, to move with intention and awareness, and to emerge not merely as an observer, but as a participant in the quiet shaping of influence. As you leave the imagined halls, as the golden light fades behind closed doors, you carry with you not just strategies or laws, but a deeper comprehension of human nature. The powerful are not distant gods. They are human beings navigating the same insecurities, desires, and ambitions as you. The difference lies in perception, timing, and mastery of presence. If you move with awareness, with subtlety, and with the patience to understand before acting, the invisible doors that once seemed impenetrable begin to open. And in that space, connection is not an accident. It is a carefully cultivated art. So step forward carefully, but without hesitation. Observe, learn, adapt, and act when the moment is inevitable. Influence is never won by chance, but by deliberate action, strategic empathy, and an unshakable understanding of the currents that drive human ambition. Machiavelli's laws may have been penned centuries ago, but their truth endures. Power is a living force, shifting, subtle, and sometimes ruthless. To connect with it, you must be equally alive, aware, and unrelenting in your mastery of both self and circumstance. And when you do, the world that once seemed distant, locked behind golden doors and whispered conversations, begins to feel remarkably within reach. And as you remain close to power long enough, something unsettling begins to reveal itself. The people at the top are not surrounded by strength, the way outsiders imagine. They are surrounded by volatility. Alliances shift without warning, loyalties thin under pressure, and admiration can rot into resentment overnight. This is why Machiavelli understood something most people never grasp. Survival near power depends less on brilliance and more on emotional discipline. Those who react too quickly, who take slights personally, who chase validation from powerful figures, are quietly marked as liabilities. But those who remain steady, unreadable, and composed under pressure become anchors in a chaotic environment. And anchors are rare. There is a particular moment when a powerful person begins to test you, though they may never announce it. They will contradict you in public delay responses or place you in ambiguous situations where the outcome is unclear. This is not cruelty for its own sake. It is a diagnostic. They are watching how you handle uncertainty, whether you collapse into anxiety or rise into calm decisiveness. Machiavelli would tell you that power respects those who do not beg for clarity, who can stand firmly even when the ground shifts beneath them. In those moments, your restraint speaks louder than any declaration of loyalty ever could. As the connection deepens, another truth emerges, quieter but more dangerous than the rest. Powerful people are always calculating absence. They are constantly asking themselves what would happen if someone disappeared tomorrow. Would anything break? Would anything slow down? Would anything feel different? This is why Machiavelli's wisdom insists that true influence is built not by visibility, but by indispensability. When systems subtly rely on you, When outcomes quietly improve because of your presence, your value becomes embedded rather than announced. And embedded value is the hardest to remove. Yet this is also where many fail. They mistake closeness for security. They assume access equals protection. But Machiavelli knew that proximity to power is not safety, it is exposure. The closer you stand, the more visible your flaws become. Every misstep is magnified, every inconsistency remembered. This is why the disciplined individual remains vigilant even after acceptance. You do not relax your standards once inside the circle. You sharpen them. Power does not forgive familiarity-induced negligence. It replaces it. There is also a moment, subtle but transformative, when a powerful person stops speaking to you and starts speaking around you. They share unfinished thoughts, half-formed ideas, doubts they would never express publicly. This is not friendship. This is trust in its most strategic form. Machiavelli would recognize this instantly. It is the signal that you have become a safe space not emotionally, but intellectually. You are no longer being evaluated for entry. You are being used as a mirror. And mirrors, when honest and well-positioned, shape decisions more than commands ever do. But even here, restraint remains essential. Law after law converges on a single principle. Never let power feel threatened by your intelligence. Your role is not to outshine, but to refine. Not to dominate the narrative, but to guide it gently. When you correct, you do so subtly. When you disagree, you do so privately. When you contribute, you frame your insight as an extension of their vision, not a replacement for it. Machiavelli understood that rulers do not fear incompetence, they fear being eclipsed, and the wise avoid casting shadows where they are not invited. Over time, if you have played this game with precision, something irreversible occurs. Your name begins to surface in rooms you are not in. Your absence is noted. Your opinion is referenced. And this is the highest form of connection influence without presence. At this stage, power does not merely tolerate you, it accounts for you. Decisions bend slightly in anticipation of your reaction. Plans are adjusted with your strengths in mind. You have moved from proximity to integration. Yet even now, the final danger remains. Complacency. Machiavelli warned that power is not loyal to history, it is loyal to utility. Past service does not guarantee future relevance. The moment you stop evolving, stop adapting, stop sharpening your understanding of human nature, you begin to decay in place. Those who last are those who remain students even after becoming advisors. They listen more than they speak. They watch more than they act. They understand that influence is not a possession, but a condition that must be continuously earned. And so, when you ask how to connect with powerful people, the answer is never a single tactic or social maneuver. It is a transformation. It is the slow refinement of perception, discipline, patience, and emotional intelligence. It is learning to stand close to ambition without being consumed by it, to offer value without demanding recognition, and to move through corridors of influence with calm precision rather than hunger. Machiavelli's laws were never meant to create monsters. They were meant to awaken clarity, to strip away illusions about fairness, transparency, and reward, and replace them with an understanding of how power truly breathes, thinks, and protects itself. If you can absorb that understanding without losing your humanity, if you can play the long game without poisoning your character, then connection becomes inevitable. Because power does not seek noise, it seeks stability, it seeks foresight. It seeks those rare individuals who understand that the greatest influence is exercised quietly, long before anyone realizes a decision has already been made. And when you become that person, the doors do not open dramatically. They simply stop being locked.